this episode, we help a first-time buyer buy a reliable vehicle under the 350,000 Rand mark.
Luxury roadsters from Mercedes-Benz come under the spotlight.
And we advise a viewer experiencing steering issues with their Mahindra Scorpio.
Hello and welcome to Buyer's Guide. Every week we try to provide you with useful advice, whether it relates to buying, selling or maintaining a vehicle. If you have a question for the team, you can send an email to buyersguide@ignitiontv.co.za and contain as much information as possible, as well as a photo of yourself.
And joining us in studio to help resolve those troubling automotive issues are Shane Assad from Velocity X and Obi Makaditwa from Eagle Ford, the good car guy.
Good to have you both been here, so good to see you back again.
All right, let's get into our first question, which comes from first-time buyer Sandiso. He's interested in purchasing the latest Toyota Corolla for 350,000 Rand or less. He wants advice on the maintenance, running costs, and reliability of the vehicle. He's also open to alternative suggestions. Obi, should we start with you? You want to put him in an alternative immediately, right?
Definitely. Firstly, let me start. You know, Toyota and reliability go together, so we can't even argue on that. So yeah, Corolla for about 350 you can get a 2022 with roughly about 30,000 K, so he can pick up something within his budget. But if I had to advise something alternative, I'd say a Mazda 3, 1.5 or dynamic, or even an individual if you can get it in that right price, which is 350. So for me, Mazda 3 is an alternative to what he wants to purchase.
Okay.
I think it's absolutely spot on. I've recently driven a few of the Mazdas, not the 3, I drove the 2, the CX-30 and the CX-5, and they all kind of just scream reliability and build quality. They're one of those cars that's very similar to Toyota. You'll buy it and pretty much have it forever.
The only problem I find with Mazda is their marketing policy.
What
Somebody should get out there and actually put the cars out there.
Yeah. What policy?
Yeah, what marketing policy? They've got no marketing policy.
Look, the Mazda is a fantastic car, and I think it's a more stylish car, and it's a nicer interior than the Corolla. But how do you tell a Toyota fan not to buy a Toyota? I mean, you know, it's really, if you want to buy a Toyota, go out and buy one. They are, you're not going to go wrong.
You know how you tell him not to buy a Toyota? You show him the stats on theft.
Well, that's
and
the
show
only,
him
that's
his
the only
insurance, cost of his insurance on the Toyota. Believe you me, when it comes to the guy's pockets these days, I've seen they're quick to change their minds. All of a sudden, the Mazda is a very good-looking car.
Yeah, look, I mean, you can't really go wrong with a Corolla, and we can never say to somebody, don't buy it. I think you make a good point, though. You know, even the thieves like them, so what can you do? And the Mazda's theft rate is way down. Yeah. So if you wanted an option, you know, go with what Obi says and have a look at the Mazda 3, because that is a fantastic.
But for 350, there are other options as well. You could look at a Suzuki Fronx. He could look at a few other cars for 350, brand new, instead of 2022 Toyota Corolla.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next question, which is from Chris, who comes from Joburg. He's the owner of a fully paid off 2013 Nissan X-Trail with 220,000 k's on the clock. There are no issues with the vehicle, but he's thinking of trading it in for a newer car like a Renault Kadjar, a Suzuki Fronx or a Swift, or something similar. And he's also considering the new Nissan X-Trail, but his budget is only 200,000 Rand. So with a low budget of 200,000 Rand, are you going to get a Fronx? No. Is he going to get a Swift? Yeah, but you know, to replace his X-Trail with a Swift, you can put the Swift in the boot of the X-Trail. Yes. You know, that's the problem. You're going to go a really small car. Anything you would suggest in that sort of segment?
Personally, in that sort of segment, you're in a position where you're married to your X-Trail, and you're trying to trade in and get a newer model, but you're not going to be able to. So it's one of those situations where you either need to bite the bullet to keep the X-Trail, kind of, I wouldn't say invest that money too heavily into maintaining, but might as well keep it and then get something else as well, because you're not going to be able to replace it for something of the same value with today's money and the more current market.
You need a bigger budget, Obi.
Yes, 100%. So I went a step further to see what is this X-Trail worth. Look, trade on this car is 150 grand. So you're probably going to get about between 140 and 150 for the vehicle. What do you replace it with? So I'll go with you, Shane, what you're saying.
Might as well
keep it.
Yeah. You guys reading my notes? Because I would never sell that X-Trail, especially the 2-liter DCI. That engine is practically bulletproof. And he's never had, the thing is, he's never had any problem with it.
Yeah.
He's never had any issues with it.
But as we know, when you get to like 200,000 Ks,
Yes,
issues can
issues
start.
do pop up.
So
but-
it's imperative that you maintain a vehicle like that.
and 200K will get you a
Fastidiously.
whole lot of maintenance. So my suggestion would be exactly the same as you two guys. I'm sure Adam has something else to say though.
I would say, I'm going to agree with you and say keep the X-Trail. And if you've got a 200,000 Rand budget, if you've saved that up, just keep chucking more into that little savings account until you've got a better budget. Because unfortunately, 200,000 Rand, sure, you can go and buy yourself a relatively good Suzuki Swift, and there's quite a few other cars that you're going to get there. But nothing like your X-Trail.
Yeah.
You're not going to get anything back unless you want to downscale. Unless you want to say, okay, I don't want this big diesel anymore, and I want to go to something small as a little nippy run around town car. Then a Suzuki Swift's a great option. But from what we read here, and I think we all agree, keep the X-Trail, start saving some money for something that's a bit more substantial. Because the Suzuki Franx, as an example, starts at the 300,000 Rand mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're 100 Rand short of that. Even a second-hand one, because it's so popular, are going to be close to that mark.
And that's if you can get one.
That's if you can get one.
Okay, stay tuned because after the break, luxury roadsters from Mercedes-Benz come under the spotlight.
And we go in search for an SUV that's cheaper than 650,000 Rand. Welcome back to Buyer's Guide. Adam is in the market for a second-hand Mercedes-Benz SLK or SLC, and that is not me. He's seeking advice on which model and engine size to consider in terms of reliability and running costs. He's specifically looking for a bulletproof engine with his budget of 400,000 Rand. Shane, you look like the kind of guy I'd see in an SLK or an SLC.
Sure.
I'm going to give you 400 grand. Which one are you going to buy?
I just hope, before you go on, Shane, sorry, Adam is a short guy.
Eh?
I just hope Adam's a short guy.
He's shorter than
Yes.
me.
Because that SLK,
Small.
It's tiny.
Obi will be a
That's why,
problem for
that's
you.
why I didn't say Obi's the kind of guy.
Obi will be a problem for Obi to get in there.
Obi had one of those, but it blew his hair off.
I would probably say the SLK 350, that 3.5 liter V6. Depending how far back you're going, because it's not stating what kind of era or year or model. If you go far back enough, you could get a 32 AMG. The only thing you might need to replace is either the water pump or the supercharger. But that's a pocket rocket.
Yeah.
And it's a solid engine. Depending on how far back you want to go.
Shane, I like you. You're coming up with the right idea. Because the
Yeah.
SLK 350 by far is the best of the bunch.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Obi's nodding his head here.
You know what? I was going to say exactly the same thing.
What, buy a Mustang?
Buy a Mustang. You're 100% right. The 350 is the best of the lot. Reliability, running costs as well, fuel consumption. Look, it's not the lightest, but it's there and about.
Come on, you buy an SLK or SLC.
I wouldn't worry about
Exactly. You wouldn't worry about
SLC
fuel consumption. Yeah,
is
Yeah.
too complicated technically.
100%. But it's within his budget, and hey, it's a car that he wants.
Yeah.
I would say go for it.
So I must say we've worked on quite a few 350 SLKs, and also that same engine is in a lot of E classes.
Yeah.
Yes.
C classes, everything it goes in, and it's a very good, strong engine.
Yeah.
I know earlier ones suffered from timing chain failures. They had a little shaft in the middle of the engine that used to fail, but that problem has been resolved. And his budget of 400,000 Rand, he's going to be looking at something that's the sort
You
of
are.
last generations of that sort of model.
The later ones, I found a problem with the intake manifold, but it's not serious.
Yeah.
You just buy the kit
Yeah.
and you fix up the vacuums.
But in terms
Pretty
of,
good.
in terms of this, jokes aside, I hope you've driven those cars because I know I can't fit into them. I mean, it's like I need that seat.
Jokes aside, you
It's
absolutely.
a bit like a Mazda MX-5. You
Yeah.
sort of need the seat to go back
Just
another 2 clicks on the seat.
But it doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
It just goes there and.
Yeah, it's a problem.
I'm okay. I'm shorter, way shorter than you.
Yeah.
And if it's, I'm just mentioning that because I hope Adam is not going to go buy the car and then realizes he's first got to drive it with the top down all the time, so he actually fits in there,
Yeah.
and then his knees are around his ears.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I mean, I've got a Porsche Boxster, and that is exactly the problem I have.
Yeah.
I sort of need to move the seat back, another 2 inches to get really comfortable. I'm sort of like a racing driver, but I drive like an old man. Anyway, okay.
Right. Our next question is from Santwa, who wants to buy a vehicle within a budget of 650,000 Rand, including insurance. The vehicle will be used to commute from Midrand to Boksburg and for monthly trips to Polokwane. He is interested in buying either Ford Territory or VW Tiguan. He is also considering the Honda HR-V or the Volvo XC60. Having test driven the new Suzuki Grand Vitara and Haval Jolyon, he was unimpressed with both vehicles and felt that both the vehicles were underpowered. Gentlemen, which vehicles would you guys suggest for him? Because he's also against Korean and Chinese vehicles.
I think he doesn't want something that's
But
got like
he
a small
drove the
engine.
Jolyon.
Yeah.
No, but that's the thing. He's driven it, and they got small little 1.5 liter turbo engines in it.
Yeah.
So the other vehicles have got more powerful engines. Opie,
Yeah,
Ford Territory.
Ford Territory, definitely. But I want to go a step back. He's saying that his budget is 650. That's 13K a month,
Including
insurance. So we need to drop about another 2K there a month, which then makes his budget 11K a month, which equates to 550K.
Insurance, that much nowadays.
Well, I'm just,
Yeah.
giving 2,000 Rand for,
Yeah.
every individual's different.
Yeah.
But let's talk 11K a month, which equates to 550. So that 650 is dropped a little bit.
Yes.
So Ford Territory, number one. It's a 1.8 engine, ambient. It's a lovely vehicle. It's got room. It's got the power that he needs. He did allude to the fact that he drove the other cars and they didn't have power. So power is part of the
He did say he didn't want Chinese
concerns.
vehicles, though. We're going to make that joke about the Ford. Okay, sorry.
So Ford Territory for me and a Tiguan. I said 2020, a 2019, 2020 model, a 2-liter TSI all space. I think that'll be perfect at round about that.
Buy that,
550
and I'll
mark.
give you my business card because you're going to need me often.
Yeah, you need me as well.
You're going to
He's
need me a
included
lot.
there as well,
If
yeah.
you're going to buy a Tiguan, I think the Tiguan's really
Lovely
good-looking car.
Yeah.
It's very practical. It's great inside, but do not buy the petrol engines and do not buy them with the DSG gearbox. So you buy yourself a diesel version,
Diesel version.
which is much stronger, more reliable.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I wouldn't buy one. Shane?
Personally, I was leaning against VW, but understanding how much money I'm going to give you now,
Yeah.
I might just take a step back with that. But also understanding he doesn't want a Korean car, I was going to probably suggest along the lines of a Kia Sportage
Or a Tucson, yeah.
or
Yeah.
a Tucson.
Which are two really good
Really good
cars.
cars.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
And it's a
think-
1.6 turbo diesel as well. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
I just think he's not driven the right car.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's why he's got this negativity towards the Chinese brand
You know, there's
or the Korean brand.
Yes.
if you want something bigger, I'm surprised Mr. Mitsubishi hasn't come up with it, is the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport.
Pajero,
So in that sort of budget, you can find yourself a great Mitsubishi Pajero Sport. You can get an automatic one that's going to be bulletproof, reliable. You don't need an all-wheel drive. You get the two-wheel drive version. It's a fantastic car in terms of reliability, no theft on it, and it's just an all-round good car. It's just not a flashy car. And then also your previous generation Ford Everest.
Ford Everest, yes.
Would
yes.
Ford, a 2.2 diesel or a 3.2. I mean, there's a lot of those around in this sort of price
range, yeah.
price
No,
range.
100%.
So there's a lot to go around. I mean, even then, I know he's not a fan of the Chinese vehicles, but if you want something that's slightly bigger and very luxurious, the Chery Tiggo 8 is, for me, a really good value for money option to look at.
Yeah.
It's worthwhile. I know he's driven the Haval and that, but what was the other one? The Suzuki Vitara.
Yeah.
They got small engines, they're not very powerful, but if you go for something like a 2-liter Chery Tiggo 8, you can pick up cars. I've seen them with like 10,000 Ks on them for 450, 500,000 Rand. And you're getting a lot of stuff with that car. And that car comes with a 5-year, 150,000 warranty. So if you buy a 1-year-old one and it's done 10,000 Ks, you still have the factory warranty to go with it.
Yeah.
And it's the same with, like if you buy a second-hand Everest that's maybe, say, 2 years old, you still got the balance of the warranty. So have a look around because there's a lot of cars in that price bracket that you're going to get, and you're going to get some really, really good stuff. We've all given you a couple of suggestions, which I think are all great suggestions. But go and drive them and see which is best for you. Okay, we're going to be taking a short break, but when we get back, we advise a viewer experiencing steering problems with his Mahindra Scorpio.
And we determine whether it's advisable to fill your vehicle's fuel tank to capacity. Hello and thank you for tuning in to Buyer's Guide. Louis bought a 2023 Mahindra Scorpio N in September of 2023. The vehicle has been back 14 times with issues regarding the steering, including a full steering rack replacement after 6 months of emails and arguments. He's now looking to get another vehicle as he cannot keep returning to the dealership every month. However, he cannot afford to let this vehicle go as he still owes more than what he has been offered. Louis seeks advice on how to deal with this dilemma. How often have we said to people, don't buy a Mahindra? Hey,
not a bad
the
vehicle.
best way for him to have resolved this issue, initially, right at the outset, he would have been and bought a Toyota Hilux
Maybe he could buy
with
two Mahindras.
with 2 million kilometers on the clock, and he would never have any problem.
Yeah.
I disagree completely with that, Saigi.
Okay, 1 million kilometers.
So I would say first prize is whenever there's issues like this, I always say go back to the dealership, sit around the table and try and resolve it. If all else fails, then include the Consumer Protection Act in this matter
Yeah.
and let them guide or be the middleman between the dealership and you to see what's the best way forward. Scorpio N, it's a nice vehicle, really nice vehicle. It's possible to change it, but what happens in a case like this when you owe more than what the value of the vehicle is? There's means of trade-in assistance with other vehicles, with other makes, and that sort of thing. So it's not all dull and gloom that you can't change it. What I would recommend is try and look at other makes or even another model in Mahindra to see if there is any trade-in assistance to try and help you out of this vehicle that you're in, so it narrows your shortfall or your gap that you owe the bank in what the value of the vehicle is. So there's different ways we can look at this matter. So don't think it's all dull and gloom. There's Consumer Protection Act sitting around the dealership, or it's going to the dealership, sitting around the table at the dealership to see what you can resolve around this matter.
Okay, can I just say something? After having been there 14 times, I'm sure he's tried all of that. You know, if I've been back 14 times and nobody's prepared to even talk to me or let me know, he had to 6 months of continuous emails and arguments before they replaced the steering rack.
So
Come on.
this is the problem with a car like this is, you know, are you going back to the same dealership? You know, I know Eagle Ford's got a Mahindra dealership.
Yes.
Isn't it worthwhile to take it to another dealership and say, no, have another look, Shane.
Yeah. Second
You know,
opinion.
Second opinion. You know, if you went to a doctor with a headache 14 times, and he says, I can't fix it, you'd eventually say, I need a second opinion. And because it's a 2023 vehicle, it'll be under warranty. Find another dealership. Because often you find that particular dealership they're going to, the mechanics there are maybe a bit hello, you know, they're not really jacked up. Maybe you need
We
to
are
find,
going to get sued, I'm telling you.
maybe you just need to go to another dealership and get it checked out.
Yeah.
Maybe there's somebody else who looks at it with fresh eyes and says, hang on a sec, there's actually nothing wrong with your vehicle because here's another Scorpio and go and drive it and you'll see it's exactly the same. That's just how it is. Like a BMW, for argument's sake. You drive a BMW and you'll feel that steering wheel. And it's like, you know, it's sporting it. Go and drive a Kia Picanto and it's like, oh, what's hell? This thing's so loose. They're different cars, different feelings. So maybe it's worthwhile to go to another dealership and see if they can resolve this problem for you. Otherwise, like you said, take it to the ombudsman, you know, the CPA. Shane?
I think you hit the nail on the head, yeah.
Yeah.
Handling it absolutely perfectly. I mean, I had the Scorpion and I can understand why people want to buy it now. A few dealerships offer, I think, a deal where you can pick them up for 448.
Yeah.
Not the four-wheel drive, but it's very
good value for money
very
option.
good value for money option. I think for me, the only issue I picked up with the car, funny enough, wasn't to do with the steering rack. It was specifically when you had the start-stop on.
Yes.
So there's
Horrible.
two issues. Number one, if you're driving and you come to a stop and the car is turned off, you push the start-stop off. The car physically won't turn back on. You have to put it in park and turn the whole car off and on again, number one. Number two is, for some reason, it likes to, when you come to a stop and you pull off again, it only limits to 40 kilometers an hour. It goes into a limp mode and you have to, while you're driving, put it into neutral, back into drive.
Yeah.
Then the car gets going again. I find those were the only two issues I had.
I think those are rather serious issues.
Yeah.
If I had to do that every time I came to a stop or something, I'd take my money and go buy the 4 million kilometer Toyota Hilux.
But, you know, going on to my argument I have about stop-start technology, I think is the worst thing they can put in a car. If you've got stop-start technology in your car, every time you get in the car, just switch the damn thing off. It is the best thing you can do to that car. It is some engineer that was high on drugs one day when he designed this thing. Anyway, I'm going to go on about it.
Hey, there we go. Lawsuits.
Another lawsuit
happening.
coming. Okay, we're going to end off things with a question from Msani, who is seeking advice on a few car-related questions. Well, that's why he's here. Is it recommended to completely fill the tank for local driving, considering that this adds weight to the vehicle? Does the time of day matter when filling the car, given the concerns about fuel evaporating more at midday when temperatures are the highest? And lastly, is it still advisable to purchase a diesel car versus a petrol car, considering that diesel costs are slightly higher? So Shane, when you go fill up your car, do you park it on a slant and then fill up as much as you can into it and shake the car? Maybe you put a brick under the wheel.
You never know. No, I just
Get
asked
as
to
much.
fill it up and you kind of just move on. You get going with it. I think it's a very good, interesting question, but for practicality and for someone who actually lives a normal life and isn't worried about, exactly how much money can I get here, money's worth of fuel, you just fill up and you go. You don't say exactly halfway. You drive for 4 days and you go fill up again. It's a schlep.
Yeah. If you're going to fill up your car, I think the best thing to do is you fill it up on that first click.
Automatic stop. Yeah.
That's it.
Done.
Your tank's full.
Yeah.
Your fuel will not evaporate out the car. It's in a closed system. It's not gonna evaporate. And if there is any evaporation, it's most probably maybe a teaspoon.
Yeah.
Obi.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Every time I've been to the fuel station, the only thing that evaporates is
Your money.
my wallet. Every time my wallet is just empty.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So Obi, in terms of like diesel versus petrol.
Look, for me, yes, you still do get more consumption or more kilometers out of a diesel. But in my humble opinion, diesel has reached its plateau. I mean, you can't get it better than it is. So, and these new engines are designed to have power on a little engine, which you're not using as much consumption on the vehicle. So it's getting very close to what a diesel can give you. So to me, it's neither here nor there.
I think also, won't it make a difference in terms of what car you buy? So if you wanted a big SUV,
Yes.
so you want to go and buy an Everest from Obi at Eagle Ford, you want the 3-litre V6. If you're going to go and buy the Ford Puma from Obi, you're going to want the 1-litre
1
turbo.
litre, correct, yes.
You're not going to say, I'd rather have a diesel in this tiny little car.
Yeah,
So it depends on which car you're going to buy.
100%.
I mean, I've got a Discovery 4 as well, and that's a diesel vehicle. And you want a big diesel engine in there. I mean, my average fuel consumption is around about 9 litres per 100, which is, I think, extremely good,
Extremely good,
for a
vehicle that
size.
Yeah.
Then I get clients coming to me with Discovery V8s. And they, come for a service and just curious, what's your fuel consumption?
20.
Huh? Choniki Pit. That
Yeah.
thing's chewing like, 18 to 20 litres per 100. So that means like you're driving from fuel station to fuel station.
Yeah.
So in that application, you want a diesel. And if you're buying a small car, you want a petrol. And the new cars, like you mentioned, they become very, very fuel efficient.
Yeah.
And this question, I want a car that's fuel efficient. Well, buy anything, because they're all the same.
Yeah.
All the same.
Plus or minus half a litre, they're all the same. You get the odd one, which is maybe a little bit better. But all the 1.2 litres chew about the same amount of juice. The 1.6s. If it's a turbo version, you get the same sort of fuel consumption. So buy the car you like. Don't worry about that.
I specifically love that you've actually busted that theory of fuel evaporating out of your fuel tank.
Yeah.
I've heard that so many times. People say, oh, but it evaporates. It is in an enclosed system. It cannot evaporate. There's condensation that could take place,
Yes.
but there's no such thing as evaporation.
Unless
Closed.
you've thrown your fuel cap away.
Exactly.
And then it's going to have that problem.
Okay, and with that, we've come to the end of this week's show. Thank you, Shane and Obi, for joining us and all that useful advice. And hopefully we see you back.
Until next time, please buckle up, guys, and keep it safe on the road. Stop driving like an idiot if you do.